Welcome to this episode of Business Results Radio, where we guide you to transform yourself, your team, and your company to perform at a higher level and achieve the results you seek. Let's get started. My name is Pete Winarski, and I'm the CEO of Win Enterprises, LLC. I started this program as a way to share the experiences of my team and other industry leaders to help you navigate these crazy dynamics going on in the world around you, and help you to be a more effective business leader. Our aim in this podcast is to help offer you perspectives and share some of the secrets that you're just not hearing about anywhere else. Be sure to check out past episodes and winenterprisesllc.com for our latest content to support you and your business. Now, let's get to today's episode. All right, hey everyone, Pete Winarski here. We have a podcast episode today with my guest, Roger Parent from Digital Position. Roger, hello.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So excited. Roger is the real deal. I tell you, I know some of his work firsthand, and he is a player in the digital world. So this is, we're really glad to have you today. And today's conversation is a real interesting one because it's not about SEO or websites or digital traffic or any of those things that Roger happens to know a ton about, and we could talk for hours with you on
probably.
Those things. But let's not. Let's not. Instead, let's talk about humanizing brands. Mm-hmm. The idea of your brand. Everyone has a perception of what you do out there in the marketplace is your brand, and for some of you, it is value. Think of Coca-Cola's brand having a value to Coca-Cola. Everyone knows what Coke is about. But for many of you, you're trying to figure that out. You're starting it out. And what we're talking today, Roger's suggestion is that humanizing your brand makes a big difference. So let's start with that. Let's define humanizing your brand. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's so, I've been lucky to work with tons and tons of brands and seen what has separated the good brands from the bad brands, right? And really the personal touch and creating a connection with your audience in a meaningful way is what separates people. When you get into starting a business, you need a mission and a purpose for being in there. You can't if it's just to make money or sell stuff, it's going to be way harder to be successful. But if you have a mission and a purpose, something that drives you beyond the financial side of things, then you're much more likely to be successful. And so what I'm preaching lately is that brands need to find a way to connect to their audience on a much deeper level than here, buy my stuff, or here, work with me. Or here's my USPs or my value props. But how are you actually connecting with the people, the humans behind the phones and the computers, and the ways you're connecting with them now?
Right. So, it's interesting. What comes to mind, there's a lot of work that I've done in the past with Jack Canfield and his work on goal achievement. And one of the things that he talked about is when you set a goal, whatever your goal is, he's not evaluating if it's a good goal or a bad goal. But if you think about your goal as how it benefits you, versus if you think about your goal, how it benefits other people, it's a total different perspective that shifts how you go about whatever you do next. And I think what you just said is, if you have clarity in your brand, and if you made it all about you putting money in your pocket and getting, hitting a revenue target, yay me, it's totally different than how does that brand serve other people.
Yep. And that's, even from when I started Digital Position 8-9 years ago, that's really through the lesson that I learned with my own brand was, getting into it, just saying, I want to accomplish this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then there was a point, and it's sort of an inflection point a couple of years ago, where we did a really deep branding exercise. And we went through this process of trying to understand what is Digital Position, what does it mean to these clients that we work with. And we ended up changing our tagline and focusing more on the stories we create. And so we have these really impactful stories that we don't need to sell people. We just tell stories, and these stories are emblematic of who we are and the work that we do, versus saying, we're a great agency, it's another thing to bring up a really cool story about it.
Right. So the story definitely is going to fit into, I think, the conversation through the day here. And I promise you, we won't be on all day. But the idea of this conversation and weaving stories in, what's the reason? Why is humanizing a brand so important? Because I'm sure there's people out there who would say, your brand is your brand, run with it, go with it. If you're making money, you're winning, you're successful. Congratulations. But let's talk about, no, it actually does matter. What's humanizing your brand? What's that all about?
Yeah, I think it matters so much for the sustainability of brands, right? Like, so if you connect, you can have a great idea, explode a brand and make some money. But as we're sort of seeing right now, the market turning and these more volatile times, the really good brands that have, really deep connections with their audience will be stable and persistent through those times. Yeah. So I had a client, still a client of mine, a vitamin company called Earth Turns, and they were all about just the customer and trying to live a healthier, more active lifestyle. And they always treated their customers right, no matter what cost. And I know the owner personally, and I've seen some of the things that he's done to connect with his audience in terms of, calling people up personally, customers, and taking care of certain issues. And when they went through, a really bad downturn in 2008, back in the day when that happened, their returning customers kept them afloat.
Right.
Their business afloat, because it was hard to acquire new customers at the time. Amazon was eating away at them. But they had such a loyal base that they had built by having this really deep connection with their audience that weathered the storm such that they came out stronger post-recession.
Right.
And so that's, why it's so important is if you're looking, like if you're venture backed and you want to just catch a trend and you want to exit in 2 years and just explode a company and exit, maybe you can kind of do something where it's less personal.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to grow a long-term, sustainable, really consistent revenue driving, profit driving business, I think that's why it's so important to have a deep connection with your audience.
Yeah. And I think even if you did want to flip your company in 2 years, the idea of, when you look at the future value of that business and somebody's going to come in and give you money in exchange for taking your business on a transaction like that, brand has a value. I think if you use Coca-Cola as an example, but any big name brand out there, you talk about Nike, it's the shoes, must be the shoes, right?
Yeah.
Nike and Just Do It, and the phrase, there's a relationship. You could say Just Do It, and people pretty much gravitate to think Nike, whether or not you were talking about Nike. So there is a value to that. So even in the short term, I would imagine making good decisions with connection and your customer focus. There are plenty of stories like what you just described, where thank God we had our continuity of our existing customers to get us through, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah. And what you're talking about too is really when you exit, you typically get a multiple on your profit or EBITDA or whatever. And you're going to get a lower multiple if you exit quick and don't have the sustainability, the proven track record of the brand behind it. And those other brands, you think about Coca-Cola and Nike back in like the early days of how they would advertise, they were really selling a lifestyle. They were selling, the culture around running or, watching the Super Bowl with your friends.
A Coke and a smile. I seem to remember that.
Yeah, totally. And so, it wasn't it's not just a product. They were selling a lifestyle and sort of a culture.
Right. What's the song they were all doing? I want to teach the world to sing.
Yeah.
Remember that? I don't know if that was Super Bowl time or some, it feels like it was Christmas time, but whatever it was, like the holiday season and Coca-Cola and the polar bear or Santa smiling, whatever it was, right? There's that warm, happy feeling that's associated with it.
Yep, exactly.
So, we talk about the need to humanize brands now. What do you think's happened? Have we forgotten that have businesses forgotten that the customer matters or that connecting with the customer at a deeper level is important?
Yeah, it's been really interesting sort of watching the evolution over the last 8 or 9 years. But there's been, with the rise of social media, really from 2012-ish on, social media has become so centered around like how they're living their lives online, right? So a digital marketing company is a great place to be, of course.
Yeah.
And when you're living in this sort of online world, you are there's this big backlash against corporations, right? That's happening on there. Even things like salary ranges are getting posted. There's a lot of like blasting of the 1% and whatnot. And so you have this issue where the mass audience is becoming much more, hey, we want to work with like regular people and not with these giant corporations that we are being, this narrative of giant corporations, corporate greed and everything like that. So with this backlash against that, they want to talk to these just normal people and their brands. They want to work for normal people too. The way that managers are evolving,
oh, sure,
has changed drastically too. That managers are becoming more empathetic and more, understanding and flexible to people's work-life balance, of course, and work from home and lifestyle changes and whatnot. So I think that we are in this situation where brands are catching up to this shift. So you have these brands saying, oh, we're losing revenue. We're getting bad PR, through Twitter and everything else. And we need to change and rethink the way we do marketing. And, I had a massive health insurance company reach out to me for some consulting advice. And I said, you go to your website and you see all these stock images and you're saying, we care about you. And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, and what makes me think that I trust this cheesy guy in a tie and a suit
who's on 75 other websites you saw?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that generally on the macro level, brands are behind this humanizing change. And especially with the rise of TikTok now, these are not just children using TikTok. These are 30-somethings that are using TikTok, and consumers or future consumers using TikTok. And they don't want to sit, and read a long web page. They don't want to look at your stock images. They just want to work with a friend and buy from a friend.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that brands are really catching up to this shift in what consumers are demanding from them.
It's probably a case also of as somebody's making a decision to work with a friend, they're deciding that fairly quickly. I would imagine, as you just described, don't use the stock images, use your pictures of yourself, stories of real clients, real people you've worked with, et cetera. How does that help someone make a positive impression decision about you and your brand very quickly?
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example of one of our clients. So we have a client, the name is Sunski. They sell, sunglasses that are recycled sunglasses, and they got into it because they're really passionate about climate change. And so these two guys in a trailer created this company. And when COVID hit, they shifted their business to just making PPE for people.
Oh, right.
And for hospitals. And they basically sort of shut down their business and took a massive hit in revenue and profit to just make PPE and help. And they didn't go on to Facebook and TikTok and say, just FYI, everybody, we're making PPE, like as a salesy tactic.
Yeah, look at us. Yeah.
What they posted on social media was, who needs PPE? Now they sell sunglasses. They don't even do PPE normally.
Yeah.
They just had the manufacturing capability to do it. And their growth has been exponential by just going on social media and saying, hey, who needs help? We're here to help.
Right? Now that the PPE has come down, are their sunglasses through the roof?
Yep. Yeah. Now they're crushing it in sunglasses because they had this massive audience that followed them and engaged with them on social media saying, I need PPE, I need PPE. All those people shared that this company was just helping out the best they could. And, they now news outlets are picking them up and things like that.
Yeah, instant cred.
Yeah. And they didn't sell themselves on social media. They simply helped in their audience
right.
in whatever ways that they could and participated in the conversation
Right.
in a meaningful, authentic way.
Yeah. So if there was a way to put a value, this is a hard question, right?
Yeah.
And so you may not have an answer, although I think it's important to ask. If I'm a business leader and I'm thinking, all right, I've got to go and tell my team, we've got to do some branding work. We have to shift the way that we're thinking of brands, humanize our brand more. And the CFOs will say, okay, well, I'm happy to make some investments to do that, but what's the return, right? Right. And I brought the CFO in because that's his job, right? His or her job is to, let's make sure that we're managing the money and getting return on investment. So what's the ROI? Is there a way to think about it? You don't have to tell me the answer. It's like X billions of dollars from North America last year, or whatever, but how to think about it. What's the right way for a company to think about the ROI of a branding exercise?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to think about it. The first is the average person's visiting the website at least 3 times before buying anything. So people are doing their research and they're touching your business multiple times.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have somewhere around 90% of people checking authentic reviews before actually buying something. So you have everybody's actually doing the research on the brand and checking reviews before they just pull the trigger. Now, maybe not to buy bananas on Amazon or something through Whole Foods.
No, but nonetheless,
but for, e-commerce products or services or hiring business consultants,
right?
They're doing their research, and they can do research very quickly now in the age of the internet. And so I think that you're right. It's not as easy as just saying, X amount percentage. If you're humanized or you're not humanized, it's X amount percentage of growth. But if you want to 10X your brand, I haven't seen very many, if any, brands do it without having a human element to their brand these days in the past 5 years. And so, if you want to grow at 5 or 10% a year, you could probably grind your way through targeted ads or whatever, doing that way. But the brands that are the ambitious, aggressively scaling brands are all doing it through a really good understanding of their buyer personas and then connecting with what matter to those people.
Right.
And that's, you see this 10X your business. That is what those brands are doing. Yeah.
So it sounds, Roger, like the in isolation, it's important. It's not enough, but it will accelerate the other things that you do. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And it plays into everything about the business. If you're going to be a brand that is all about stories like Digital Position, we are weaving our stories within the way we pitch people, the way we talk to people on our client calls, the way we speak on podcasts, the like telling the story about Sunski, right? That's part of the Digital Position brand, is telling these stories that I'm telling. And if you're an e-commerce company, it could be your packaging that you're shipping to people has a story in it, right? You want to weave the brand throughout everything that you do, internally and externally.
Right.
And so it's a foundation at which to then build the company on. And you're right. Once you have that foundation understood, now, if I'm going to make a PPC ad, or I'm going to go make a YouTube video or any sort of, marketing material, it's easy because I know like what story to tell or what foundation to build off of that.
Right. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. It's interesting because Melanie on our team here, of course, is she's always reminding us authenticity is something that we have. So some of our core values: authentic, high integrity, and like these are decisions we make internally. And her reminder to us is, guys, when you're out there doing your thing, people are attracted to you because you are the things that you say you are, and continue to emphasize. Like there's times where we've written something up like, hey, you needed a blog post, you needed a social media series, and draft one, she's like, guys, where's the authenticity we were just talking about? Like, oh yeah, that's right. Cross that out, throw that edit, draft away, and go back to it because it was missing the core of who we are in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point, is that when we say about humanizing, when we're talking about humanizing a brand, you don't want to be something that you're not.
Right.
I'm not a comedian, so I'm not going to make like a jovial, hilarious brand because I'm just not that funny, but
that was funny.
Yeah. I'm a really driven, relentless athlete.
Yeah.
Who's super passionate and energetic. That's my brand, is we say humble, focused, relentless, and are sort of like 3 core words.
Mm-hmm.
That's really who I am. And the brand is natural to me because that's what I personify.
Right.
And so I have a couple employees that are just hilarious, like really out jovial, like really funny people, like can go into a bar and just like strike up a conversation with anybody.
Right.
If they were to start a business, they might want to use more like fun color schemes, and the tone of their copywriting would be different to match the tone of their business.
I see.
So I think you're totally right. You think about really who you are, and then you build your business around your business authenticity, around being authentic to yourself as a business owner.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that in. So let's itemize. What are some top things that customers really care about these days that they want to see a business provide through their brand or otherwise?
I think the first is feeling like you're not going to let them down, right? No matter what you do, whether you're providing a product or a service, they want to know that they can trust the reliability of that person to do what they say they're going to do. Right. And that's, you have a big issue right now in the contractor market. Nobody trusts their home contractors to do work on their house. They end up micromanaging them because they have this reputation for being, I'll be there Friday, and they show up on the following Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so, the reputation of that industry is really fragmented right now. So I think doing what you say you're going to do is really important from the customer's eyes. If you say it's going to arrive there by Friday and it doesn't, they expect some type of communication, right? And so with that, doing what you say you're going to do, really good communication is so important. And people, whether it's responding to messages in a timely manner, whether it's just being empathetic to people's situations, or participating in the dialogue that's out there with your customers. Again, Sunski is going back to them. They're really passionate about climate change. So they're in these climate change advocacy groups, and they're participating in those in a serious and meaningful way. And so, I guess to whittle it down, you have, doing what you say you're going to do, participating in the groups that your personas are passionate about, and just being really good communicators.
So the opposite would be someone who, for example, said, save the whales, but never saw a whale, didn't,
exactly
support whales.
Yeah, exactly. And the Sunski guys, you see, there's videos of them like on the beach cleaning up stuff. That's
alignment.
Yep.
Yeah, that's authentic alignment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
So what can a business do? I think this is probably where people are really falling down. You talked about stories. Some of what I think the answer to this is what you've already pulled in. So let's remind people of those things with stories and being authentic. But go ahead, and if this were a fresh question, what, as a business leader or a business who's trying to, just in some cases survive in the world, in other cases it's like, okay, we know we can help more people. How do we go about doing that? What's the to-do list? What can they do on this?
Yeah, I think people generally need to rethink how businesses really should be run. And that's almost, to challenge the question, that's almost inherently the problem, right? Is a business owner looks at a P&L and they say, what's this? And they scrutinize every expense. And that is, what's step 1, step 2, step 3. And that inherently challenges the more creative side of branding, right?
Right.
And I think that instead we need to rethink almost and reimagine what these brands are doing and say, how do we provide an authentic, genuine experience to our customers and to our staff and employees internally for retention's sake. And then beyond that, the to-do list is, optimize your page speed on your website, make sure you have a good account structure for PPC, make sure you're doing email abandoned cart messages and things like that. That's the checklist, but you need the brand to be able to do those things.
Sort of like a supporting culture around it, right? So and I like the way you differentiated. There's a to-do list, which is a very left brain way to think about, the what do I do next business wise, and branding is a very right brain, a little bit more nebulous and maybe hard to nail down sort of concept. So with that in mind, we've got the universe of your brand that what lives within it is excellent alignment type performances that you need to have in place.
Yep. Yeah, and very clear brand visions of what the brand is and what you're trying to accomplish. And so if it's an e-commerce brand, why are you selling the product that you're selling? What are you trying to solve with this problem? Trying to think of like a couple of different brands that we've worked with that have been really impactful in this way. Let's say you're selling like we work with a company that sells breast pumps, right? And for new moms. And we're talking not about, we need this ad alive by this date, or, this is our exact budget. It's talking about what are new moms going through. And they're going through a massive lack of sleep. They're super frustrated. Your clientele, if they can't find what they want easily, they're going to be pissed, right?
Yeah, you're done, right?
Yeah, because they're just struggling with a lack of sleep, a change of hormones. Like, we're talking about the people behind that.
Yeah.
And then now we're crafting our marketing strategy around that. And that's where that step 1, 2, 3 process comes in. Like, okay, now we know the people behind it. We have these different ideas on how to reach that audience in a meaningful way. And we're marketing even to some instances of husbands of new moms and talking to them, right? And so we're creating these personas and we're targeting the audiences based in an authentic way of being like, you talk to these husbands maybe a different way than you talk to the new mom.
Save your wife's sanity.
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
Right. Got it.
Like, so yeah, that's what we're trying to accomplish with brands, is to get them to just rethink, it's not you launch your marketing strategy and then you try to cram a brand into it. It's, you need your brand really ironed out and really thought through in a really deep way. And then you go to that left brain, as you put it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then the rest becomes easier after that.
Yeah. Well, what I really like about the answer that you just provided, it's about relationships, and it's about understanding what makes your particular customers tick. You could talk avatars and some of these other marketing type terms, and they do matter. I don't want to say that they don't at all. The idea of who are the people who we want to buy our product, who can we support, right? Turning that around, just from my example before, not making it about us. Who can we support? Who can we serve? And what is it that is, what's their experience on a day-to-day basis before we fold in what's the experience with us?
Yeah. And we had, we worked with an agency recently who's asking me for some advice, and they do conversion optimization services where they basically do optimization on the website to just get it to convert better. And they showed me a pitch deck basically that they were using, and a couple different ways they were going to provide the service and whatnot. And their pitch deck was, a lot of just marketing speak and stock photos and things like that we went over.
Did they win the buzzword bingo?
Yeah, it's just, yeah. And I had to go back to them and just say, nobody wants to read this.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to take the time to read through this deck. And if you put me on a presentation with you and you read this deck to me, I will fall asleep. And so, but you sent me this video of you providing the service. And what you did was they do a user study where these people come and they use the website and they just record them. And they just say, narrate how you're feeling out loud and try to, go through, search if you were buying this product, go through and just narrate how you're feeling about the experience. And they have these just clips of where they bucket all the feedback into these clips. And like, you know, the first one might be frustrated with the checkout process. And then all they do is they just show 4 to 10 second clips of 5 to 10 people going, oh, it sucks. You know, like what you know, I can't figure this out. Like, oh, why can't I just autofill these fields? Why do I have to manually type in my name? Or isn't this 2022? You know, and so you get all that feedback, and I was saying that video is your pitch, right? Like that is your customers. You know, you're revealing the human element of the customers behind their brand.
Yeah.
And they did it for another client of mine, a mortgage company, people going for a mortgage and being frustrated. And they changed their whole marketing philosophy after just watching this one video of their own customers basically being able to speak directly to them about their frustrations and what's really powerful. So powerful.
And the before and after story, I imagine they're collecting a lot of those too.
Yeah, this I mean, other than the mortgage, the interest rates going up now is struggling for any mortgage company. But throughout the mortgage boom that we've been experiencing and the housing boom, they have been, you know, 1,000% growth. And so they're really almost 10xing. Just unbelievable growth by rethinking just how they were doing their marketing. Right. It changed everything. It changed their website. It changed their PPC ads. It changed their YouTube ads. It changed their social media. It just that one video of saying like, these are what the actual customers are saying and thinking, it just made them rethink their brand, and they crushed it since.
Yeah. Well, that's outstanding. So just in the sort of the end stretch here on how to think about humanizing your brand, are there other really important things that a business should be thinking about that we haven't talked about yet?
I think nobody wants to fire a friend, right?
So become the friend.
Become a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to kind of like encapsulate it in a different way.
Right.
Like when I'm consulting, doing fractional CMO or whatnot, and I'm sure when you're consulting too, you become really close. You want to become close with people. You want to become close with your customers.
Right.
And, you know, these people don't want to fire a friend. So if no brand's going to be perfect, you're going to mess up a shipment. You're going to mess up, accidentally give bad advice, or your gut was wrong in an instance. It's everybody's human. We're human, right? But people are more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt and, you know, excuse your flaws, or, you know, kind of allow those flaws to exist.
Right.
If you're being a friend to them, you know, and that's just in every sense of that word, you know, and so when you're your brand trying to sell yourself, become friends with the audience that you want to sell to.
Right.
And the selling comes naturally.
Right.
You know?
I think that's a great way to describe humanizing. Humanizing is about humans. It's about relationship. It's about connection. And a friend does that. They actively recognize, you know, what would a friend do in this situation? They would be a friend. They would go out of their way to care. And that's really, you know, a good synopsis of what we talked about.
Yeah. And even as a CEO myself, you know, I have 30 full-time employees, and sometimes I need to take my CEO hat off, even with my own staff, and say, hey, let's chat about what you're going through right now. You know, I have a new mom on my team who's just going through a really tough time, and just say, hey, work hats off for a minute. Let's just talk about our feelings and just air it out. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why my employee retention is super high. It's because they understand that I care about them as a human. And even when it comes down to the things we do for our employees, we don't just give out blanket bonuses to employees. We replaced a guy's mountain bike his mountain bike got stolen. We bought this woman a huge sort of like 10 or 20 day meal kit to be cooking with her son because she wanted more time with her son. You know, we're thinking about like the people and personalizing our staff appreciation around them, the people that we have. Right. And it's just a human way to run a business. It's in my opinion, a more moral way to run a business. So that's what we're trying to accomplish now in 2022. And that's what the good brands are going to, that see growth. You're going to see that be a central theme going forward.
Very good. Roger, tell the people where they could find you. What's your website, please?
Yeah, my website is digitalposition.com.
Excellent. That's simple, very
Yep.
direct.
Yes.
It's on the shirt, right?
Yes.
Here we are.
You got the little logo.
You got the little logo. Yeah. So this is really on point today. Your discussion before we got on the line of like, I think humanizing brands is such a big deal today, and people are messing it up and doing it wrong. That's my words, not your words, but you'd probably say those same things.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So hopefully you learned something today from this conversation. And Roger, thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for listening to this episode of Business Results Radio. Remember to share this episode on social media or directly with people that you think would benefit from it. And if you're willing, subscribe to this podcast and give us a 5-star rating. Go ahead and do this now while you're thinking of it. I also want to invite you to visit businessresultsradio.com. And if you want to learn more about the Win Enterprises team or about the services that we offer to help you and your business to thrive, visit winenterprisesllc.com. Thanks a bunch, and we'll catch you again soon.